grieving the loss of my friend, like didn't even want to like be back home around like my friends and stuff, and like wishing that I pretty much wasn't alive myself at times.
And going to court is reliving the whole incident again.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
It was when I was at home. I remember I lived, my room was upstairs, but my injuries were so bad I couldn't really make it up the stairs, and I stayed on the couch downstairs for a while, watched movies and stuff, and just told my mom one night, I was like, Mom, why me? Why was I left here? And
I think we all go through that when we go through a traumatic injury. Why me?
I remember I broke down and I was crying. And when you see pictures of my car, like, I don't know if you have seen any of the videos or whatever, it is almost incomprehensible how I survived that accident. I got shot out my door. The door cracked open barely from where I hit the tree. Right where I hit the tree, cracked the like where it sealed in the door, and my door popped open, and all that impact, I went shooting out my door. And state police, did investigation. They said I was like within a centimeter of being dead, like where I hit the tree twisted my seat.
Were your shoes still on, or did they come off?
That I think I still was wearing, like,
because usually you're talking to a guy who did accident investigation his whole career. Usually when the shoes are off, you don't make it. Yeah. I'm dead serious, and that's usually where the point of impact is.
Yeah. I was like flying, all the impact. So I use the example, if you throw like a rubber ball against the wall, what's going to come back at you? The rubber ball's coming back at you. The wall's not going anywhere. So all that impact, that tree that I hit
didn't move.
My car stopped, and anything that wasn't like
an object in motion stays in motion.
Exactly. Like if it wasn't seat belted or bolted down, that was getting thrown out, and that's what happened to me. So Rich, I guess the way the roof caved in, I had a sunroof, I had a Nissan Maxima, and just suffered life-threatening injuries that night.
Now, how did your family take it?
This whole February 5th, 2005 has impacted my family and so many people's lives still to this day.
Because you're going to be known as the guy around town. Like him, that's him.
Yeah.
That's him.
I was afraid, like, here I am, the outgoing, sociable guy that always want to go out. I didn't leave my house. I didn't leave my house and go anywhere for a long time. And it's awesome that you bring that up, Kevin, because the support that I've gotten from my family and friends has been so good. And even this memorial card that I have right here, this was given to me by Rich's dad. Rich's dad was a police officer, Groton police officer, retired Groton police officer. Used to give death notifications to families. And here he is.
Yeah, getting that knock on the door.
4 something in the morning. I don't know the exact specifics, but I had spoken with Rich's dad before at a military base up where I'm from. And I had to hear his side of the story with my friend Rich's coroner's picture up on the PowerPoint screen while I spoke as an inmate while I was incarcerated. You want to talk about powerful? Yeah, that's probably one of the most powerful days that I will like never forget in my whole entire life. Here I am, inmate, incarcerated, out with my friend's dad talking to Navy soldiers, and they knocked on the door and gave him the wallet. You
being a parent, there's 2 things. Number one, no matter what your daughter does, no matter what your son or daughter does, or what my sons do, they're always your sons. They're always your daughters.
Yeah, absolutely.
The loss of one, no matter how much you wish it into existence, they're not coming back. And you got to live with it. When was the first time that you were able? Well, first of all, let's back up. What did they tested you in the hospital? What was your blood alcohol?
0.16.
So you weren't even like that far gone.
Well, now it's double the legal limit, right?
It's double the legal limit, but
I mean, I was drinking 10, 12, 30,
if you're partying as much as you said you were,
tolerance. You build up a tolerance.
There was much worse days
my mom, I'll still never like my mom even asked my friend Nick, they're like, Nick, was he fucked up? Like Nick's like, hell no. Like I've seen him like much. It's you know how we spoke about taking responsibility earlier? Black eyes, driving to, you know, like yes, everything happened for a reason. Like I should never have been going that fast. I shouldn't have been drinking and driving. You know, just
You hit the perfect storm.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should have heeded your mother's advice. The snow's going to melt and the roads are going to get icy.
It's crazy. Like the back roads that this, like I go by it all the time. My family lives near that where my accident was, and it's on a hill. Like this tree, they just cut this tree down. I'm not kidding you. This past 6 months ago, everyone's like, why? This tree was literally touching the roadway, and just it had snowed the day before, and then that Friday it got warmer. And it melted, and it was like one of those shady spots that when it was like 9 degrees out that morning, single digits.
So the sun didn't even have a chance to melt.
And it was just like kind of wet on the road, and it was like glare ice. And the kid ended up testifying. Like, so we'll get into that. I was arrested for 2nd-degree manslaughter with a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol. 10.5 years in prison, a felony. 10.5 years in prison, and yeah, that's kind of hard to wrap your mind around.
But then you run into the sticky situation where you know you did something wrong. Like there's no doubt in your mind, and I can tell just by talking to you, you know you did something wrong. But at the same time, you don't want to lose 10 years of your life. So what do? Do I plead guilty and own up to it? Or do you
fight it?
Look
for a legal loophole.
So I was pretty messed up at the time. My parents had hired an attorney while I was, you know, like it's still like, the attorney did his best. You know, I remember I ended up moving up to Boston. Working on Bourbon Street, high-end restaurant. Like, my whole life was, like, in limbo. What am I going to do? Going to, you know, like, am I going to jail? Am I not going to, you know? So I'll never forget the last time I went to court. It went on for, like, almost 2 years. Like, here I am, like, grieving the loss of my friend, like didn't even want to like be back home around like my friends and stuff, and like wishing that I pretty much wasn't alive myself at, you know, at times.
And going to court is reliving the whole incident again.
It's like it was my first, you know, kind of experiences with the court, you know, criminal justice court system, and
not to mention, I don't know if this ever crept in your mind, but you're not a bad looking guy. I don't go that way, but you're not a bad looking guy, and now you're going to go to prison. I know you're a Marine and all. Marines are tough, but yeah. I'm sure you weren't too keen on taking a couple hot dicks to your mouth.
Yeah, man, I may be tough.
You know, that's a nice way of putting it, Kevin.
Listen, I'm coming out and saying it.
Yo, man, the mentality in prison is a lot different than the mentality in regular world. Yeah. And I'm just gonna let you know that for yeah. So yeah, the thought of going to prison for 10.5 years really wasn't something, but I never looked at it that way. I wanted to take responsibility, and you know, like you said, you know, rich is never coming back. You know, even if I did spend time in jail, whatever, I knew, like, I always had a positive mindset of, you know, like I know I'm gonna have a good life one day, and I'm gonna turn this around. Like early on, I always wanted to go out and like tell people. So, my last time I show up to court, judge says 5 years. And this is the last.
Last plea bargain.
The last offer. Either take 5 years or go to trial. Like, I sat in that courtroom. 5 years seems like an eternity.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
That you said I'm sort of pretty. Yeah. 5 years in prison didn't seem to really yeah.
It didn't seem like a great deal.
Didn't seem enticing.
Better than 10, but still.
Yeah. So my attorney's like, no, this is a Marine, never been arrested, never had a record, and we'll bring it to trial. Shit you not, man. Showing up to trial was like eye-opening. Like I couldn't believe I was sitting in the courtroom, showing up every day,
in a defendant chair,
selecting jurors. Mike, I'm not shit. Yeah. Like one of my old substitute teachers' baseball coach was one of the jurors got picked, and he's like, nope, sorry, can't. Mike was one of my. Yeah. I'm like, holy shit! Like this, it was like real. It was like reality setting in. It was like crazy. Yeah, that was a tough time. The whole court trial was.
So did you plead? Did you go?
Not guilty.
Went to plead not guilty. Went to trial.
Toxicologist, friends from the party, like everyone. It lasted like a month, and Never forget it, man.
Breathalyzer experts, all that stuff. Trying to.
Yeah, there was like a Ringer's lactate that like my attorney found out from a scientist. A Ringer's lactate causes a double negative when you have a brain injury. That's the solution that the EMTs gave me when they were transporting me from the ambulance or whatever. And the scientists say it like has a false positive on alcohol rate, like whatever. I'm just glad everything worked out the way it did, because Rich's dad gave this to me when I was in prison, and they saw that I took responsibility and served my punishment.
Well, how many years did you get?
I got sentenced to 5.5 years in prison.
Oh, you got found guilty?
This necklace, found guilty, took it off, gave it to my mom. Took off my suit jacket on a Tuesday. I'll never forget it, Tuesday and afternoon. And lost 4 years of my life, almost 4 years of my life. I was a convicted felon.
Where did you go?
First one is off like a highway up where I live. It's called Corrigan.
I know Corrigan.
24-hour lockdown, man. Like looking out the window, like shit.
It's gonna be a long time.
So I've heard this from other people who have gone to prison. The first time that door closes on you.
Yeah, it's allowed. Like, yeah, my pen drops down here, and it kind of was loud. Yeah, it's something like that. You never forget it.
Like now it's real.
That's reality.
It's like I was a Marine though, and thankfully I was blessed with a strong mind, and it wasn't like, oh man, poor me, I'm in prison. I'm like, this shit is what I deserve. I was given a punishment, and every day is one day closer, and that was the mentality I had.
Food was probably better.
The what?
The food was probably better.
In Marines was.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The food in
But you
prison
didn't have drill
sucked.
sergeants yelling at you all day.
Yeah. Like the food in the prison sucked. Like that, and that's putting it mildly. Yeah, sucked.
So was there a moment in prison where you're like, okay, now it's time to turn the page. Now it's time to...
I remember. So I went right to prison after I was found guilty from the trial. You can either bail yourself out,
Appeal it, all that stuff. And
appeal down the road, maybe. Yeah, like I watched Dateline, Nightline, all that shit, and like appeals, and there was none of that going on. It was either me starting my time then or getting bailed out and then going back. And I'm like, nope, I'm not paying a bail. I'm starting my time now. So we started my time, and here I am. Go to work. Like I work as an inmate right away. Like some people that I knew were correctional officers, helped me get into a job. And I was a tutor. I was a tutor for these people that were working on their GEDs. I'm a college graduate, business degree, and I wanted to use my mind as best as I could and help and give back. So I was in Corrigan for like 3 months, almost 3 months, and then sentencing day comes. My parents hired another sentencing specialist, letters of recommendation. I had like lieutenant colonels flying from California, another attorney from Houston, fly in town, and like had over 100 people in the courtroom to speak on my behalf. And my attorney's like, tell me where you're from. Every person came up to the microphone. I know Mike from this place. And I was sentenced to 5.5 years that day. And you want to talk about, you get held in the, like they call it the tank or whatever, down below.
yeah.
My head hurt a lot when I was sentenced to 5. I was like, holy, like when I first saw it on paper, like 2021 or some shit, like when my parole and probation would be over. Like, damn, is the world even still going to be around in 2021? And like,
That's
here we are.
crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said, but there had to be a moment of clarity in prison. For you to be there and where you are now, something had to turn.
I made a mistake. And you know what I told you I would refer back to earlier? We're all told a million times not to drink and drive. Oh my God, the commercials, drunk and drive, even on the highways, click it or ticket or drunk driving, like everyone's told.
Drive sober or get pulled over.
Yeah, all that stuff. We see it in our eyes and all the time. And
but it's like white noise.
It's like until that pain, we feel like that, damn, that hard pain. And that was a wake up call to me. And here I am in prison, get sentenced to 5.5 years. There's this guy named Bobby. He was kind of like a cool dude that looked out a little bit after, because as you said,
Pretty boy in prison.
I needed a little bit of, like people on my side,
It's either that or you better start duct taping your ass shut.
credibility and earn, like with other people. And I knew how to play the game. like I was mentally prepared and prepared myself to play the game. And I knew I was not going to see any of these people ever again in my life. But anyways, Bobby was a dude that kind of like had my back, and I had his back. You know, it's all kind of a brotherhood type thing. And he was in prison for bank robbery. Got sentenced right around the time, armed bank robbery. Got sentenced around like same amount of years as me, who's going out with their friends on a on an innocent night out in college, and my friend is, you know, killed in the accident. And here this guy like knows he's going in
bank, and he's
going into a bank with a gun, and like, so I always, when I speak to kids, I'm like, you're not gonna go rob a bank. You're not gonna be like, oh man, I'm gonna go like after school today, I'm gonna take my dad's 9mm and go rob. No, it's like, and how I refer to it, drinking alcohol, it's like a society accepted, but like that punishment, we all are told not, you know, like about it. So it's kind of crazy, you know, when you think about the two, you know, the punishment for someone going into a bank with a gun and someone that goes out just having a few beers with their friends. And yeah, so I made that choice when I talk to kids and all that stuff. I'm like, that's a choice that you need to make today. A promise that I will never drink and drive. Like, it's like flipping on a switch, you know, like it's a decision that you need to make in a commitment. So yeah, I've committed to that.
As your time starts to run out in prison, you're getting closer, you're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. What was your plan?